Great. Thanks for joining. I'm Mike Chase. I'm the Senior Vice President for the Solutions Engineering Group here at AireSpring. This deck is the World of AireSpring. This is the deck that I use anytime we're going in and closing deals. And this deck has been used successfully over the last couple of years. I mean, we update it, I update it multiple times a year as new products come out, as I see, what the sales angles are that we're getting hit with, competitors, et cetera. But this deck is closed literally millions and millions of dollars in monthly recurring revenue. So this is the go-to deck that every time I jump on a sales meeting with any of you agents or any of our channel managers, this is the deck that I use. So what I'm going to do with this is take you guys through the highlights. You will be able to download this deck. I would say take a shot at it later tonight or this afternoon. Give me a chance to put this latest deck, because I made a couple of changes in it, to the worldofAireSpring.com website, which has content and downloadable stuff and some videos up there for you guys to review. This is the rough agenda, so we'll kind of go over the company, some things you already know, and then we'll cover some sales differentiators, particularly around SD-WAN, because that's our largest selling product. It helps enhance everything that we do, and we're now doing that on an international scale. This is one of the things you'll see with AireSpring. I know a lot of you have sold this for the last 20 years. We continue to grow strong. International is really a big play for you guys now, and I'm seeing huge deals in that space. We're currently rolling out SD-WAN for a couple of companies, one of which is in 125 countries with 7,000 employees and is a global manufacturing giant that owns 90 different companies under their wing. So a lot of exciting stuff going on there. I have been obviously doing this for a long time, worked for a lot of different companies. My motivation for getting certifications was, frankly, I didn't understand a lot of this stuff. And so I love teaching these, because anytime I can take something complex and boil it down to something simple, it's good for all of us. I just had to renew my CCIE recently as well. These videos are awesome. So when you're hunting prospects, it's always the first thing, right? Get them out from under their rock. It's really hard. I know you guys put a lot of effort in calling them, emailing them, trying to go to events where maybe you're going to meet the right people. It's difficult. These videos absolutely will get people to give you a call, give you an email, and pique their interest. The first one is the corporate overview video. Again, these are all up on the worldofAireSpring.com as well. You can find them on our YouTube channel. If you're not on our LinkedIn, absolutely get on our LinkedIn, because that's how you're going to find out where all the new content is. It's a wonderful marketing team puts out, and the events that are upcoming, et cetera. But these 3 links, I send these all the time, even after we've had a meeting with a customer, because it's a great overview of what we do. It does highlight differentiators, and it kind of just gets to the point, and they're a couple minutes each. A lot of times people don't have time to read through things, already deluged with chat messages, email, text messages, et cetera. And so the videos do a great job just kind of breaking the ice. Some things that have not changed in the company. Well, the ownership, right? We're still a family owned company by these 3 brothers, Avi, Daniel, David Lonstein. We have spread out, over the pandemic, like many of you have. We've got staff not only just internationally now in a dozen countries, but in over, I think, 12 to 14 states here in the United States, from California all the way to Florida. And that's been very beneficial. You'll see later, as we show you the channel manager slide, we've done a tremendous amount of hiring to, not only beef up nationwide, but then internationally. And also, you're seeing us make more investments in our international backbone, a lot of other stuff. Now, this slide's important because a couple things I make points with customers. 1, we're privately held. 2, we're debt-free. We continue to be debt-free, very profitable company, even though we have very thin margins, to be really honest with you. We're very frugal with our money. We invest in our data centers. But one thing I point out in this slide is not only is it a quality company owned by a private family, but the most important thing is people usually say, well, who's AireSpring, right? Because they can't get to us unless they go through you guys, which is really cool. I mean, the channel's worked out great for all of us, but that's the one question that always comes up. Well, I've never heard of these guys. It's not like CenturyLink or AT&T, where they're trying to sell broadband into my home or running commercials on TV, and I've seen them. So the point I usually make here is, look, we're running north of 6 billion SIP phone calls every month. Okay, there's only about 8.6 now billion people on the planet. So that's almost like, everybody making a phone call every month on AireSpring. That kind of establishes who we are, the kind of robust data centers we have here in the US and internationally, and that we are a top 5 super carrier aggregator with all of the top carriers. So when you look at, Lumen, formerly CenturyLink, you've got AT&T, you've got Verizon, they know who we are. You guys know who we are. And then we bring experts to the table, not just myself, who's a CCIE and SIP certified as well, but a lot of other team here. There's a lot of smart people rolling around, and we're looking for more. I believe there's about 43 open positions right now worldwide for the company. So if you know some good people, some good talent, we're always on the prowl. But that's the slide that I use to kind of say, here's who we are. We're not some small mom and pop shop. We're an international super carrier with a lot of stuff to offer. And that said, we have brought a lot of talent on board. I'm probably most excited in this slide about Russ Shipley, who's our newest addition, came over from TPX. He's now our COO and really putting his arms around our service delivery organization. As I've said before, Avi, our CEO, from the top down has put an absolute mandate in place. We've always had a low price. We've always had a pretty good portfolio. We've always been from day one owned by one private family. We've been debt-free and profitable, but the focus right now is to delight our customers. We'll show you our mission statement here in a minute. To help do that, though, we're bringing on top level executive staff from all over the world. We also brought on Joseph Goodyear, who's a new addition, helping us with that international connectivity and other stuff. So you'll see us do international LTE, international phone system, a lot of things that we weren't doing in the past. And then, of course, we've got a lot of other superstars here. We've got John, Mike, Yang, Scott, and Anthony. Anthony's running our product management group and helping us innovate what's coming next, which is pretty exciting because there's a lot of stuff coming out this year between international LTE phone systems and SASE as well. Pretty exciting. Channel managers have grown quite a bit. For those of you who've watched this slide over the years, I mean, we've got them all over the place now. So reach out to your channel manager. They're the ones who will connect you with different events that are going on that are AireSpring related, materials, help you close those deals, get you SE resources, etc. But we do continue to invest in that team, and it's growing quite a bit. At the same time as we make these investments, of course, we're still winning a lot of awards. Just won one, I think yesterday, that I saw for SD-WAN for 2021, 2022. Pretty exciting. And that's why we're adding a lot of big logos, thanks to you guys. And what's really interesting is, I got to tell you, the smallest agents are bringing the biggest deals in. You always think it's the large agencies. Not always true. I mean, a lot of you are falling under those agencies, right? Because they streamline and add a lot of value to your life as far as marketing, collateral, quote systems, and so forth. But it really is, I mean, agents who are just, one person or two people that are bringing in some of the largest six-figure deals that I've seen so far, even the international ones. It's pretty amazing. So just know that all of you have a shot to add your logo to this list as we continue to grow together. Now, that said, our mission statement, this comes down from our CEO and the family that owns us, all the way from top down, is our mission is to delight our customers, not just service our customers. We want to delight our customers. We want to be really happy by providing exceptional personalized service, helping them connect and communicate effortlessly. So that's our goal. Just, if you've never read this, this is actually the guiding light now as to everything we're doing. And that's why there's so much focus on delivery. I know, we've always had vast portfolio, great price. You guys love selling us. We love working with you. But sometimes there's bumps in the delivery, and we've seen that, right? And you stick with us because you're loyal and because the price is great. And the truth is, too, 99.9% of the time, we get it installed at that price, as promised, as designed, etc. And then everybody's happy. But it's those bumps along the road we're trying to eliminate because we want you guys super, super happy, not just kind of, grunting and bearing it, shall we say. So service quality at AireSpring, definitely paramount. That's why we're bringing on a lot of top tier talent in our service organization with the project managers, our very talented managed service engineers, network operations folks. We really have some superstars in all of those departments, but that really is the focus. And so as we go through this deck with customers, I'm kind of just pointing out, hey, this is who we are, right? We're not some small company. We're an international super carrier aggregator. And that when you're looking at the vast amount of products that we offer, which solve a lot of problems for companies, they need phone systems, they need firewalls, they need connectivity. SD-WAN's the best way to do it, both public and private. They need wireless, whether it's fixed wireless or LTE or satellite. We've got you covered, right? So there's a nice mix of offerings where small companies who spend as little as our minimum spend, which is $250 a month, or there's no maximum spend, right? But we've got a lot of companies that are paying us hundreds of thousands of dollars per month. When you're small, you can look big. When you look big, you get big, and then you're one of those logos up there on the other slide, right? But all of these come together to give even an individual customer who's small, and we have a lot of small customers too, and I just love them, especially when they start growing using these products, who are doing quite well with it. This was really true during the pandemic as well, because you had one throat to choke, one number to call to help with your phones, help with your firewalls. If you had to get 100 or 100,000 remote VPN users in, it was very easy to put up a network-based firewall with us and get it done. Or to call us and say, hey, is there anything I got to do to move my phones from my office to my home or wherever? Or, gee, connectivity's been kind of choppy. I think I need the world's going crazy. I might need satellite or I might need LTE. I'm a little bit worried. So a lot of these solutions have come together. I love showing customers that slide because it just says, hey, look, whatever you need, we've got it. The agent that you've come through is a super agent, right? And so when they're looking for fiber, and we have all the fiber tools, just so you guys know. So when we're looking at really remote places, we can figure that out. Just had to trace, in fact, fiber in the middle of Oklahoma for our customer, trying to find a better way out of there. Sometimes there isn't, it is what it is. But we've got access to all these. And usually in our quote tool, this comes up in about 90 seconds or less. Again, we're a one-stop shop, single point of contact. Customers do like this because, again, they're starting to understand the value. I'm seeing a lot of movement in the market where people are saying, hey, I'm tired of dealing with 20 or 30 vendors or even 5, right? It's just too much, particularly as you get to those international and large deals. 5 vendors may not sound like a lot, but it really is when you're talking about 300-400 locations or thousands of locations. And we're in the middle of rolling out a lot of that now. So standardizing that, not just domestically, but then internationally, is a huge, huge win for everybody. And again, we continue to win awards, but as I like to say, and I tell all our largest deals kind of jokingly, we suck less. All carriers suck, we suck less. What we're trying to do, though, is not suck at all. Just so you know, that is the goal, that is the mission. We want to delight our customers and give them this full kind of support that you get, because we do create we even treat the smallest of projects as a project, right? The smallest deal is a project. You get a project coordinator, you get an engineering team, guys with a lot of experience who've designed data centers, designed the networks, and are looking for the simplest thing. I mean, there's times I tell customers, don't buy that because you don't need it. The simplest design, believe it or not, actually is the one that's the most robust. It fails over the easiest, and it's the most affordable. I think one of the greatest things we always forget about technology is the most enjoyable technologies are the ones that are the most affordable, not just super expensive. And I know that someday if I got a failover, it's going to do X, Y, or Z. It's the ones that honestly, the price is great. You're getting a great value out of it, and then when the bottom falls out and you do fail over and everything works flawlessly, you're like, wow, I'm so glad that I got this. But it's not a day-to-day burden trying to pay for it. I always hate it when that's the case. So we try to be very competitive here. We do add a lot of network partners. I think lately it's been a lot of metro fiber type carriers. We have all the large ones in there. We continue to add not only fiber in a metro and regional sense, but then the wireless providers. We have 2Pi-Fi, One Ring Network, satellite providers. I'm very excited about future LEO satellites. Today everything's geosynchronous, 16,000 miles up in the air. The LEO satellites are about 700 miles up in the air, and it's quite a bit of difference. I mean, I can tell you just as an example, because a lot of people are familiar with Elon Musk. I did get a Starlink dish. I did use it in Yellowstone recently, 1 week before the big floods happened, by the way, so I got in and out. But I was out there, and I was at the only camping ground fishing bridge, they call it, that had power in all of Yellowstone, and no LTE service or anything else. And I was getting about 120 meg down, about 20 meg up, 84 milliseconds of latency with no packet loss. And that's pretty equal to broadband, and being able to do that anywhere in North America, Canada, or Mexico is pretty awesome. So I'm looking forward to, as time goes on, technology adapts, we're going to have more options here, both domestically and globally. And I think it's pretty exciting what's coming down the pike. So international partners, that's been a big focus for us. This is why we hired on Joseph Goodyear and others to give us this kind of reach and offer those kind of options. Today, you can quote internet in over 100 plus countries around the world using the QuoteSpring tool, or get your channel manager to do it. International carriers are a little feisty to deal with sometimes because they really don't like doing a lot of quotes. When you quote it, they kind of expect there's going to be an order. If you don't actually send them an order, subsequently they will penalize you sometimes. So understand it's a tough market, but we're making that easy for you guys to spread your wings. My ask of you guys is this: a lot of companies got bought, versus getting out, versus going out of business, right? They got bought by a bigger company, they merged, a lot of things happened, whether we realized it or not, during the last couple of years. So my ask of you guys is, go talk to your customers, even your smallest customers, right? I was on with our SVP of customer experience about a month or two ago, talking to a really small customer, or he thought it was, and it turned out they got bought by a huge European conglomerate, right? So ask their customers, hey, what's going on? Who still owns you guys? Do you have any needs for international? You'll be surprised what you get back. Sometimes it's, hey, the mothership came in, bought us out. We're all, cashed out driving Ferraris, but I'll make you that introduction because I always liked you guys, whatever. And then you're into a huge opportunity. Other times it's, I got the supplier, they're in China, I could use some connectivity. And believe it or not, it's insanely affordable with us to get a 5 or a 10 meg pipe that's on our private backbone internationally across 3 continents. We'll talk about that. But ask that. That's my kind of go-to task for you guys is, hey, listen, ask your customers what the opportunities are. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised as to what's out there. Again, as different solutions roll out, and this will be true for SASE as security rolls out, all the connectivity across different carriers, our data centers become, and this is true as an aggregator, they become the glue, right? They glue all this stuff together, even when it's different solutions, even when it's different carriers, different circuits, different transport mediums, and really can tie it all together. A long time ago when we were selling tons of MPLS, it was multi-carrier, multi-mesh MPLS, meaning that even if it took 20 carriers to connect to your clients, here in the US or worldwide, it looked like one network with QoS being marked and remarked between carriers and so forth. We continue that, legacy with the new technologies now where we're able to leverage, this guy's security and this guy's SD-WAN and put it all together. That'll be true with a lot of things, not just SD-WAN, but SASE coming. And as features come out, I'm pleasantly surprised and proud to announce that some of the new features like Edge Network Intelligence, which will blow your mind. It's an amazing artificial intelligence platform. One of my engineers, Chuck, I thought he was going to name it HAL 9000. I guess he just calls it Mother. Pretty funny, but it continually monitors things and sends you alerts and does some cool stuff. It's free. Now, normally that's a very expensive add-on if you try to do that otherwise, but we were able to spread that out across our many customers and offer it to you guys for free, despite the thin margins. And so this is kind of a neat thing. Customers who are already existing with us or come on board with us as new can ask that this be turned on. There's a little bit of a penalty, 10 to 20% with the box, so it's not something you're probably going to turn on at the data center edge unit, but it's really great to give you very deep insight to applications, DHCP and DNS response times in your LAN, and it can go very deep. It's an acquisition that VMware bought called Nyansa, and it's pretty amazing. So that's a new feature. We rolled that out. We didn't charge anybody for it. We're not here to nickel and dime, and I think it's an awesome thing. If you want to demo that, definitely get with Chuck on our team. He's giddy every time he presents it, and I have to say, every time he presents it, I see something new that it's monitoring. He even has it sending him text messages now. It's pretty awesome. So if anything moves in our network, trust me, Chuck knows about it. We're currently up to 23,000 sites worldwide. Again, this is a slide that I use with customers to put them at ease and say, listen, again, even though we're privately owned and family owned, we're not some mom and pop shop. We're an international super carrier aggregator who's taking down some of the biggest logos. And we're familiar with designs that, matter, right? Like in retail and fast food and hotel hospitality, a lot of these different things, because they do have discrete systems. Healthcare is this way too, where you've got all these different record systems or payment systems or delivery systems and warehouse systems, and we're familiar with integrating and what some of the special needs are with all that stuff. So it does help to have that kind of a background. Escalation list, this is always a good one to give out. I want to make sure all of our customers get this. It is an escalation chain, so hopefully you don't stop, you don't start rather at the bottom with our CEO. You should kind of go through the list here, start at level 1 and work your way up. But it's good to know that if you got to get to the CEO, trust me when I say it's going to get taken care of. When he gets an email, he gets a phone call, that goes in front of an email distribution alias, then a live meeting with all the management of the company worldwide. That gets attention. And then somebody will get back to you very quickly, and hopefully we'll get it resolved. But there is a chain here, and all these people on here are extremely competent. I've worked with all of them over the years, and I have really high marks for all these guys. So if you reach out to them, they'll get it done. It is our goal, like I said, to delight our customers, not just provide the service, We're not that type of carrier where we just want the money. We actually want to work with customers for a long, long time. Now, talking about SD-WAN, it's amazing to me there's this many vendors left after, I don't know, we've been selling these products for over 5 years. SD-WAN's been out for about, 10, 11, 12 years now. It's amazing there's this many left. Now, I will tell you out of this whole list, there's probably 10 worth even looking at, which is crazy because there's 4 times that many. But what's interesting is VMware continues to be the top brand. Originally called VeloCloud, got acquired by VMware, now acquired for $61 billion by my old company, Broadcom. You can never escape. That was always the joke at Broadcom. They would do billions and billions and billions in acquisitions, so even if you left the company, you still ended up working there usually within a few years. So pretty funny stuff, but I'm looking forward to working with them. They make a lot of chips, and I think what's going to happen is that you're going to see all this software, right? The software is eating the world, sure, but it's riding the back of a hardware elephant. So all that's going to get put down into ASICs, chips with specific functions that execute at blinding, speeds, and even better, basically network silicon, where essentially it's reprogrammable as well. Network CPUs, I believe they call them. And that was technology, to be honest with you, we had bought back in 1999. So here we are 22, 23 years later. What's old is new. But they're finally just realizing, hey, instead of waiting for everybody to use all the stuff that we invented 20 years ago, we're just going to have to buy software companies and make them do it. Now, today we sell in this market the number 1, number 2, and number 4, suppliers. So we've got VMware, we've got Fortinet, we've got Cisco. Retail loves Fortinet. They really do. The price and the security that you get all in one box is amazing. If you're talking about more complicated scenarios, depending on your needs, we always go with the number 1 solution, VMware, for the connectivity piece. And I think the most popular combination, at least right now, I think this will shift, but right now it's selling VMware for the SD-WAN with a Fortinet firewall behind it. As the SASE products roll out from these companies, that will change. We'll talk more about SASE later, but that's kind of how things are rolling out right now. So you've got VMware at the top, Fortinet in the middle. Very good price point, particularly it's even competing with Meraki price point wise, I kid you not. And that's a lot of value rolled up into one. I do get customers though with Cisco shops. They're just familiar with Cisco. I get it. I'm a CCIE, but they like that fit. It's a good fit for them, and they're mostly focused on connectivity, making IPsec VPN a heck of a lot easier, which it is on Meraki, and having basically that cloud-based configuration. Which that was really one of the first cloud networking companies in the world was Meraki, and Cisco did a great job by buying them and putting them into the fold. So when you're looking at a basic firewall, basic SD-WAN, keeping that connectivity up, putting your voice over the best available path, not being able to improve it like you can on Fortinet and VMware, then Meraki is a great fit. Architecture-wise, now this is where you really can sell SD-WAN very easily and very quickly. Okay, this is how we close the really, really big deals. What a lot of people don't realize is SD-WAN is not one of those things you really should go out and buy on your own and put in. There's some very, very solid reasons for saying that. Okay, and this is how we prove it to customers. First of all, this is the cloud architecture you want, but this is not the cloud architecture that most vendors are out there selling. Okay, one of the reasons that we picked VMware is they have gateways, okay, into our data center, into clouds, into anywhere that a mass number of customers may want to go to for various reasons. They want to use our phone systems, they want to use our SIP trunks, they want to get to their cloud environment, whatever. And so having gateways is important. Most infrastructures in SD-WAN only have the orchestrator where you go, look at it, monitor it, configure it, and they have the edges, the box that goes in your office, and that's all they've got. And I call that SD-WAN island because then you're cut off from using SD-WAN to enhance your voice all the way to the provider, all the way to the cloud, all the way to now over 5,000 plus destinations that you can get to. So if you don't have gateways, you're really just improving things office to office. The other big point is when you don't have a gateway and you don't have an ISP, an internet service provider like AireSpring in the mix, where are you getting your IP addresses from? Well, you're not getting them from us. You're not getting them from our data center. You're having to get them from the circuit. The same game you've been playing for the last 20 years. You buy a circuit with internet, you get IPs on it. Those are the IPs you use to get to the internet. Otherwise, you don't talk to the internet. Here's the problem you got with SD-WAN. You roll out this newfangled technology. It's not really new after 10 years, but if it's new to you, great. You roll it out, you got SD-WAN, yay. What sits behind it 99.9% of the time? A legacy firewall. What do firewalls do every time they got to change their IP address? Well, they dump all their voice and data connections. They dump all their flows, all their sessions. It all means the same thing, flow, session, state table. They dump all that every time they have to fail over. You fail. Why fail when you fail over, right? So that's why we deliver IP addresses over the top of SD-WAN down to the back of the box, and that's what you put on your firewall because that IP address never changes. And so as circuits fail or you add or delete or whatever happens on the front end, nobody cares. Firewall has the same IP, it's reachable, your VPN users don't have to disconnect, reconnect, your voice connections don't drop, your data connections don't drop, because unfortunately you're dealing with legacy devices. You've probably got an IP-enabled PBX doing a SIP trunk, maybe you've got you almost always have a firewall, of course, and those are the behaviors that happen when you don't do that. That's also why most of my competitors, 5 years ago when we started doing this, almost nobody was doing that other than us and Big Leaf. And that's also why people think Big Leaf is SD-WAN because it has that IP address and it remains stable. And therefore, as circuits are flapping and moving back and forth doing what they're doing, people remain stable. Now, what they don't do, a lot of vendors, is they don't deal with packet loss, and they don't deal with jitter, which is variability of latency. You know, latency is not necessarily bad just because there's delay. It's only when there's really high delay. When you have variance of delay, where you're kind of going high and you're kind of going low and you're kind of going high and you're kind of going low, you don't want that. You want it to be consistent. And that's where jitter buffering comes in. That's where packet duplication comes in. So that if you're losing packets, things remain at a high file transfer rate. Your voice, your video looks pristine. We'll show you some slides on that later, but that's kind of where we go with that one. So that's why we go through that, because that's really, really important. There's a slide that kind of brings it together. Now, working with your SE team, you don't have to worry about the boxes. We'll size it. We'll kind of, tell you what interfaces are needed. If they want high availability, the traditional way where we're throwing in additional switches and the ISPs are connecting to the switches, we'll round robin the number of ISPs you've got between the switches. So if you've got, number 1 goes on 1, number 2 on 2, number 3 goes back on 1, number 4 on number 2, we'll get it around there. If they want to save a little money by not including the switches, then we've got an enhanced HA where you could technically plug one ISP into the first box and the second ISP into the second box, and then the first box, because we only do primary and secondary. We don't do active because it's too hard to figure out where the traffic's going at any given moment. We want to be able to troubleshoot these easily. So everything will go through, let's say, the top box, which is primary. You can still use ISP number 2. He'll do it through a connection through the other box. But it saves you a little bit of money, and we've got a lot of different designs around that as customers want to explore it. Now, as a lot of you know, the current box, this will change under Broadcom, I guarantee you. The current box, though, at VMware maxes out at 10 gigabits per second. You can scale 8 boxes of any model. It has to be the same model, but of any of those, even the low-end box, you could cluster 8 of those together and multiply the bandwidth. So if you wanted to get close to 80 gigs of bandwidth, you take 8 of the 3800 series boxes and cluster them, you can get there. So we've got different designs around clustering, around HA. Nothing you guys got to memorize, but just know the options are out there and we can do it. Now, another thing we like to cover with customers, when they're interested in technology, they're always wondering, how do I get there from here? This is a very important discussion. And fortunately, the methodology, because I've done thousands of cutovers myself, hands-on, it always boils down to this. And so this is why I drew this. If you're wondering what I drew this, and I do really quick and dirty diagrams all the time, and I use a program called Scapple. Learned it from some Cisco friends of mine, SCAPPLE. You can Google it, find it online. I think it's at Literature and Latte, which is a weird site. I think it was for artists to kind of sketch out ideas they had, and here I am, network guy, stealing that and using it, but hey, it's brilliant. The method is always the same, though. You're going from old network to new network, and old network might be MPLS, but it could be anything, right? And you're trying to get to new network. And so the concept is simple. We take 2 sites for redundancy purposes, and we put it in our boxes. We connect it to the old network, and we connect it to the new network. Then you can roll out all of the remaining sites as quickly or as slowly as you like, right? And if any of them are on, let's say you're going from MPLS to pure internet SD-WAN, the new sites aren't going to be cut off from the old sites. If they got to get to the old sites that are on MPLS only, then they can go through one of these 2 sites to get there. So there's a little bit of a backhaul penalty, but it's not really noticeable. So that's kind of the concept. It works every time. There's some variances with this. One of those would be customers got some inbound traffic for whatever reason coming in on an internet provider into the first site or the second site, or maybe all the sites, and we have to compensate for that until we can move them over to those AireSpring delivered IP addresses that are being sent over SD-WAN. But that's an important conversation to have. It's an easy one to have, and that's why I always cover it in the deck, because inevitably it comes up at some point in the conversation when you're trying to close the deal. The other thing that comes up is, what are the sizes of the boxes? Again, there are physical and virtual boxes for everything we sell. So there's the Cisco Meraki, Fortinet, the VeloCloud. So whether you've got it on site or you're moving to the cloud or moving, between all those, there's the right form factor for you and the size and so forth. And that's kind of the other part of the discussion, is which ones do we quote? We've got that covered. These are some slides that you get when you go to SD-WAN Bootcamp. Because this has always been a point of confusion. What's the right size box? And then VeloCloud always had that, that weird verbiage, and we included it in our rate sheets of, it's a combined bandwidth of up and down. The beauty of it is that, let's say if you had a 100 meg box, right? The theory used to be you can only do 50 megs up and 50 megs down at the same time. That's true. But most protocols, again, 99% of them don't work that way. They're asymmetric. They only work in one direction for the most part at a time. So you might be doing 99 megs down, at which point you're doing 1 meg up. And if you go to upload it, you're doing 99 megs up and 1 meg down. That's just the nature of things. The only protocol that is an exception to that is voice. And what we do is figure out how many seats somebody has, what kind of codec they're running on, how fat is the protocol, and we multiply that out to come up with a number, and that gets added up and down. Otherwise, the kind of rule of thumb is when you have like 100 down, 50 up, 75 down, 25 up, I'm going to take the 100 from the 100 and the down 50 up. I'm going to take the 75 from the 75 down, 25 up. I'm going to take the bigger number of either one, up or down. Then I'm going to add to that number the voice calculation here, and that is going to tell me the proper size box. And then underneath that, you have a license. The license just determines, hey, out of 100 megs, how much of this do I really need to enhance? It's usually the 80-20 rule, if you must know, which means that 20% of your traffic is voice, video, your payroll system, whatever you want to enhance. 80% is just stuff that's going out to the internet. Some of that internet traffic, though, for various reasons, either on the fly or permanently, you're going to say, no, these are really important internet applications, and I don't know if they have an SD-WAN box on the other side of the internet, and I don't care. I'm going to enhance that, and the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to send that up to AireSpring's data center first, or my data center, or my headquarters, or one of my other offices, anywhere that has SD-WAN that you can get to. That's why gateways are important. If you only have one office, who are you going to play with, right? Well, AireSpring in our gateway. So that's why solutions that don't have gateways really don't do the job. But you got to have, it's a bookended solution. You got to have somewhere to send it to. And the idea is that most of the problems you're having happen in the first 3 hops of your internet. Okay, and people want, they love, they absolutely demand rock solid 24/7, error-free internet if they can get it, and SD-WAN is a way to get it. So you're going to take some of those applications and say, hey, prioritize this for me. Now, I'll confess, my kids came to bug me the other day, and I prioritized Netflix. Not really legit, but it worked, and they haven't been back since. So I don't own Netflix or the internet, but I was able to enhance that. You can send applications to another SD-WAN box, because the idea is no matter where you send it, whether it's AireSpring's gateway or one of your other boxes at another office or your data center, you're getting out of your internet hell, because once you get out on the open ocean of the internet, things are a lot better. And of course, we call that in-tunnel and out-of-tunnel traffic. The actual term, when you look at the policy in the VeloCloud box at least, it says multipath, which means enhance that with SD-WAN, or it says direct, which means just send it out direct to the internet. In those 10 vendors, when you look at them, there's only a couple of methods to improve traffic. Now, keep in mind, out of 41 vendors, 31 of them don't do anything really with traffic, or the vast majority of the 31 don't do anything with traffic at all, meaning they're going to look at the various paths that you have. Like if you have 2 broadband circuits, right? One's on coax, one's on fiber, and the fiber happens to be the better path. It's going to choose that until it dies. So you might drop your voice or data connection, and then if it dies, it's going to send it over the other path. If both paths are up, it'll look at it and say which one is actually better for the priority applications that matter to me, my voice, my video, whatever. I'll probably send it down the fiber path, right? Until that dies. Now, what if you only have one path, or you only have one circuit going into your SD-WAN, you only have one site? Then you're going to send it up to AireSpring, of course, in our gateway to help enhance your internet experience. We give you 200 megs of that for free, by the way. But if you're having trouble, how do you improve it? Well, there's only 2 mechanisms for dealing with the first condition, negative network conditions, I call them, and one is packet loss, right? So you either have packet duplication, which is what VeloCloud does, or you have packet duplication, and maybe you have forward error correction. VeloCloud does a light forward error correction, but it's not true FEC. True FEC is where a packet's missing, and based on the parity or the CRC data that arrived piggyback on the other packets that I'm sending, I can recreate what's missing on the fly. That requires some heavy CPU, right? Whereas packet duplication, and this is why Velo uses it, has no hit to your CPU or the resources on your SD-WAN box. It just duplicates packets. What it does is it says for any protocol, so it's agnostic, any application, any protocol, TCP, UDP, ICMP, etc., how many extra packets do I have to send for every sequence of packets that I'm required to send by the application? So when applications send packets, it puts them in a sequence, it numbers them. And so when it sees that there's 1% or 5% or 10 or 20% packet loss, it's a calculation. How many extra packets of each one do I have to send to overcome that percentage of packet loss? And it does that. And this is why it's superior to every other solution out there, because the thing I teach in SD-WAN Bootcamp is it's not just the feature. Somebody can say, oh, I have packet duplication, or I have jitter buffering, or whatever. It's the implementation that matters, and I'll illustrate that. So with packet duplication, if I just turn that on, let's say I have a 100 meg circuit and I'm running at 50 megs, I start running into packet loss, right? Am I just going to turn it on and duplicate every packet on the wire? Am I going to duplicate just the applications that I've decided to prioritize in my policy? We call that the human intent policy, which is now to be executed by the machine, right, in the SD-WAN box. or how is it done? Well, that's why implementation matters. A lot of solutions will just turn on a very rote method of duplication. I'll start duplicating X number of packets. And then the problem is it's not dynamic. It can't compensate for real life. And funny enough, humans being dynamic, our networks really reflect us. So the great thing about VeloCloud is that AI engine. You're going to see more AI engines in technology over the next 5 years than you've ever seen. The reason is it can turn it on when there's packet loss, turn it up when it sees more packet loss, turn it down when it sees less packet loss, turn it off when there is no packet loss, and fail it over to another circuit if there's no circuit left, or it can't be improved at all any further, right? So that's where implementation, you can't just ask questions. So when I see matrices, right, from customers, oh, this guy has this feature, this guy has this feature, I throw up on it because I'm just like, good Lord, that is not the way to evaluate technology, because they'll just tell you, yeah, I do packet duplication. I do it horribly, right? So you want to look at that. But the slide that I love showing customers is this one where I say, look, the SLAs, we've got them, we pass them along, we don't dumb them down, we don't enhance them either from the major carriers. They are what they are, but you got to forget those, and really not worth the paper they're written on. And if you read through a lot of those and you jump through all the hoops, after 33 hours of downtime, you might get $3.89, which unfortunately doesn't even buy a gallon of gas these days. So is that really going to save you? No, you got to build a better network. SD-WAN is absolutely the way to build it, because then you can do things like bandwidth aggregation, jitter, packet losses taken care of, hypersonic failover. Why fail when you fail over? So this slide's really important. That's the message I always drive in is why fail when you fail over. Don't fail over and fail back and never fail. No one should have any idea when things fail over. I don't think anybody ever patted me on the back, said, Mike, it's so awesome that we spent all this money and you bought that other circuit. My phone call died in the middle of my conference call, or 40,000 customers had to dial back into the call center, but thank God you bought that circuit. No, they want to fail over without failing. That's the goal, is it not? So SD-WAN can do that for you. And these slides kind of illustrate that. We talk about that IP mobility. Okay, great, you're using this newfangled technology, but you have this firewall sitting behind you. What difference does it make at that point, right? I mean, you got to have those IPs delivered. A lot of our competitors now saw that and started doing that too. We've since enhanced that with a lot of features they don't have. That'll drive them a little crazy. But we kind of do that shootout. We also have to explain to customers what the difference between QoS, which was a hop by hop, you had to have a good router, had to have a good circuit, had to have a good engineer. It was a hop by hop thing, to QoE, which is like, man, I don't really care what I'm rolling over the top of. I'm going to improve it end to end. And that's a big difference when customers understand that that's the technology we're talking about. And that visually, in a lot of these interfaces, it's very, very easy to see who's the great carrier and who's not. And that's why having you guys sell us as a super carrier aggregator is so powerful. I would not want to be locked into one carrier with their circuits and their products. It defeats the whole point of SD-WAN. You want to be able to sell the variety, the buffet menu, and that's what we bring on an international scale to every single one of these customers, while unifying the bill and as well as the ability to quote them. And then getting you to the cloud and many other destinations, because you don't want to put in additional circuits. In the end, you want a bunch of internet circuits, for SD-WAN. You can also put private connectivity in, because when you put in multiple internet connections, you're protecting against one carrier going down, right? But you're not protecting against the county, the city, the region, the state, the country, which happens internationally. Whole country goes down. You need to backhaul over private connectivity. AT&T switched Ethernet, MPLS. There's a lot of different, point-to-point circuits. There's a lot of ways in and out. Metro fiber, Metro Ethernet. There's a lot of different stuff you can do, and that will help you against those kind of losses. But when you're getting to cloud and all this, you want to do it over SD-WAN. You want a virtual PVC. You don't want a whole new circuit that you got to manage. And the great news is, when you take this box with you to another building, times are good, you're expanding, you go to a bigger building. Times are bad, you're downsizing a little, you go to a smaller building, you move to the cloud. No matter where you go, your IP addresses, public and private, your connectivity to the cloud, your connectivity to the colo, your connectivity to all your other offices follows the box. The IP addresses follow the box. So now you can hire somebody with the brains of a U-Haul mover to move you to, for example, any of these colos, and they just have to basically recable everything, get new internet plugged into the front of the SD-WAN box, and you're up and running. Your firewall didn't change its config, has the same IP address, same NAT table statement, same access rule statement, same VPN, DNS pointing to it, the whole 9 yards. And this is why, by the way, when you guys call a customer and saying get you twice the bandwidth for half the price, they always tell you, let me think about it. And you're going, what's there to think about? Well, they're thinking about an IT migration because you haven't sold them this technology. And so it's a lot harder for them to reconnect their cloud, reconnect their data center, reconnect all this stuff, right? And as a courtesy to the customers, I also include the data transfer fees that the different cloud providers will charge them, because we drop them inside the cloud, just like dropping them inside a colo. There's still a cross-connect fee. One's virtual in the cloud, one's physical in the colo, but there still is one, and so we cover that even though we're not the ones charging it to them. So why would a customer want to go with you guys to do this? Well, it's OpEx, not CapEx. It's global if they need it. It spans multiple continents. We can get people in and out of China. We're moving a lot of manufacturers out of China that had moved into China, and we're moving them to, for example, Vietnam, Thailand, India, South Korea. It's a huge migration going on right now. We're helping with that because we're one of the few providers worldwide that has a private backbone, and the only one I know of on VeloCloud, for example, that has a private backbone. Everybody else out there who says they have this is slinging SD-WAN packets between SD-WAN nodes on the raw internet. Trust me when I say that's not the way to do it, because the internet goes down at black holes and intentionally gets regulatory interfered with, like the Great Firewall of China, et cetera. So you really do need to have your own private backbone in and out of China and most of the continents, and we have that. SD-WAN and SASE are going to integrate. In the future, you're not going to really see firewalls. You're not going to see SD-WAN. It's going to be a gateway box. It's going to leverage the cloud. If it's cloud dependent, you're foolish. I've owned cloud companies, several times. And at the end of the day, things are cloud augmented. They're looking at billions of transactions from a security standpoint. They're looking at, the connectivity. They're looking at a lot of stuff and feeding that to the box, the cliff notes, if you will. You don't want to be living completely off the cloud where you have to, I look at Cato and Zscaler, you got to send everything to the cloud and it comes back again. What if I just want to print to a printer that's 20 feet away, right? And SASE is going to totally redo security, but I'll tell you in a nutshell why SASE is the hottest technology coming, but it absolutely has to be fused with SD-WAN. SASE, and nobody talks about this, blows my mind. The number one reason why every vendor jumped on board with SASE is this, and this is why we sell Fortinet firewalls. 99% of traffic out there is encrypted. Okay, it's encrypted, everything. Try going to google.com, easiest way to explain to customers. They can't go there HTTP. It's HTTPS. You'll get redirected if you try otherwise. It's encrypted. Everything's encrypted, not just your bank. How does your firewall get in the middle of that traffic today? Answer, it doesn't. Unless you've rolled out DPI SSL, deep packet inspection for a secure socket layer, it can't see anything. So all those fancy little features on the back of the data sheet, biggest fraud in the industry. Okay, I'm being honest. This is what people who test firewalls told me. Doesn't do a thing. So what SASE does, because doing that, by the way, is really, really hard. In a nutshell, and I teach this in security boot camp, so sign up for that because you'll get the in-depth version. But in a nutshell, the only way you can get in the middle of that is to convince your customer, your users on your LAN, to basically encrypt all their traffic so you can decrypt it. Well, why would they do that? And is Google or Netflix or Hulu or Bank of America or Wells Fargo going to let you do that? No. You're doing a man-in-the-middle attack. You're lying to your end users and saying encrypt it with this certificate. You're forging that certificate so you can decrypt it, filter it, re-encrypt it. Do that all at wire speed, which is why we use Fortinet. Nobody else has the chips that can even come close. They're losing 50, 75% of their throughput even trying. That's why they don't talk about this. They don't turn it on 90% of the firewalls, even though all the traffic now is encrypted. So you got to do all that, and then you got to turn around and go to Google and Netflix and Wells Fargo and Bank of America and whoever and say, now give me your real certificate because now I've got to re-encrypt it, otherwise you won't talk to me, right? And this is a huge problem. SASE solves all that just by you installing the software, because it does all this SSL crypto ninja stuff and is able to decrypt it, send it, filter it, and do all that, and then leverage the cloud because that's a lot of heavy lifting. Right, so I'm not going to go too in depth, but that's the number one reason why that technology was adopted by everybody. And you don't want to lose all your network enhancements. Because here's another secret: your IoT devices, like your Nest thermostat, are not going to let you in the middle of that conversation, no matter what you do. So they've got to be handled specially by a gateway device that's on site, physically there, to do that. Yet customers do love these little charts, right? So I do include them because they're somewhat helpful, but you always have to ask about implementation and the caveats, because honestly, the solutions we're selling blow everybody out of the water, which is why you get results like this. It only takes 2% packet loss, by the way, to screw up all your voice, all your video, and completely bring to a crawl all your file transfer protocols. Another big advantage we have when we sell this internationally is we're giving you one free IP address. We're not charging you $10 like the cable costs for a static IP address per SD-WAN site that you deploy. We also include DDoS mitigation through a company called Voxility. They stop a 1 terabit, that's 1,000 gigs, per second attack every 2 days. Okay, that's, you don't have to take my word for it. You can Google it. That's a huge reason to use us, for this technology because you're protected, you're getting a lot of stuff for free, you're getting the IP address, you're getting ENI, you're getting all the monitoring, you're getting the support, you're getting the software upgrades, and you're getting access to gateways that can really leverage everything. SASE, by the way, has been slow to roll out. There's 8 pillars to it. I think VMware and Fortinet, I already have the software installed, by the way, so we're on the cusp of it rolling out, but it's been about a year delayed, in my opinion. And we have found various things with it that we want to fix or correct or whatever. When it comes out, it's going to blow your mind. The ability to filter things, like you can say you can't go to Facebook, sure, but you could say you can go to Facebook, but you can't post, or you can't like, or you can't do. The granularity of what you can do and also protect intellectual property is bar none. In addition to solving all this SSL Ninja stuff. So this is kind of the deck we take them through. I'm just showing you guys the highlights, because keep in mind when you download this monster, it's 163 slides. This is literally the deck I use, so I'm prepared for anything. Funny story though, SASE is getting the A dropped out because it's been so long to deliver all of this functionality. When you look at Cato, Zscaler, a lot of companies out there getting a lot of business early on. They're only delivering 3 of these things. Usually they're delivering a little bit of SD-WAN, firewall as a service. They're doing some, internet filtering. Maybe they're doing 4 of these where they also include ZTNA, Zero Trust Network Access, for the VPN portion. The most exciting stuff isn't even touched yet. Remote browser isolation. iPhone 13 got hacked in 30 seconds by 2 Chinese hacking crews. How? Through the Safari web browser. Why? Because they don't have RBI. They don't have the ability to launch a browser, run it in a container in the cloud, and if it gets infected, destroy it instantly, and therefore spread the infection to no one and nowhere, right? So because these features are so hard to come out with, and people are having to build, data centers, $500 million data centers each, all over the world, so that they're less than 10 milliseconds from 80% of the world's population, less than 5 milliseconds from all cloud providers. And trust me, when I look at Cato or Zscaler, companies that have venture capital funding, and they have 400 employees, they have 400 million in funding, that's a drop in the bucket compared to 32,000 employees at VMware, who just got purchased for $61 billion and has the capital, thanks to Broadcom, and already had it anyway, to go put all this infrastructure worldwide. So this is why it's taking time to roll out, because it is a global cloud augmented, not cloud dependent, but cloud augmented infrastructure. And so today, where you're kind of buying 6 buyers, you'll probably have 2. Like I said, today it is 2. I get a lot of guys buying VMware and Fortinet. They'll be down to 1. We're going to get to questions here pretty quick, so I'm just going to show you the highlights on this slide. This is our international network. This is a private multi 10 gigabit backbone that we have between all these different continents and destinations. Believe it or not, you can actually get a 5 or 10 meg of bandwidth from any point A or point B in the world extremely, extremely cheap. It'll blow your mind. Get a quote on this stuff if you got any opportunities for it, because it'll blow your mind. I also redid the pricing on this stuff too. So Dave Pierce is my director who runs this team. He works with other peers throughout AireSpring. It's now an on-ramp, off-ramp pricing model. So if you buy 10 megs in Dallas and 10 megs in Frankfurt, I don't care how many offices you have in Europe or how many you have in the United States, all of them can connect and use that 10 megs over SD-WAN. Okay, you buy your SD-WAN, there's pricing for each site, but once you're up, I'm not charging you extra to go use the global system. I'm charging you for the bandwidth on that system, meaning that you're going to pay for the 10 megs, but any of your offices can use it. They can use all of it. They can divide it up and use part of it. And it's not static, it's dynamic. So one office, let's say you're doing backups, could kick off at 1 in the morning, use 10 megs, do a backup or whatever to Frankfurt. 2 in the morning, next office kicks off, uses the full 10 megs. Or if you had 10 offices and they're all using it, I guess they're roughly getting 1 meg each, right? So the pricing's been totally redone. It's very attractive. You're talking hundreds of dollars, a couple grand for even larger bandwidths worldwide, and it's really, really affordable to put SD-WAN in there. We can also do really cool stuff now, like premium internet access in China. I can give you American IP addresses in China and totally avoid the Chinese firewall. There's a lot of stuff we can do as far as traffic backhaul, manipulation, delivery of IP addresses. Keep in mind what I said about firewalls. Internationally now, I can supply IP addresses so the firewall can fail over without failing. How do you do that internationally? Nobody has those capabilities. Nobody on the planet. Nobody. I hear tons of complaints from customers when they get into deep networking with my competitors. We also are the guys that'll show you the VeloCloud policy and tweak it. You kind of have to be an SD-WAN ninja to know what you're looking at, but there's some big tweaks in the default Velo policy that absolutely have to be changed. One of those is, for example, DNS going through the tunnel. Why would I want it to go through the tunnel? I may not. Email and bulk data. I personally just like that going straight out to the internet. Multipath means enhanced it with SD-WAN, direct means send it direct. This is stuff you got to dive into. So when you really start customizing your applications, because you're using a flex license, where you're not just licensing 100 megs or 1 gig to its max, you're saving a ton of money by buying 100 or 200 or 300 meg license. These are the decisions you got to make. These are the slides that we take the customers through, as we're explaining how these, technologies work. So this really is the go-to deck. We're going to cut to questions here shortly, about 1 minute. I'm just going to click through a bunch of slides. Make sure you guys download this. If you want to go in depth on either the security side of it, join the SD-WAN bootcamp, join the security bootcamp that we do as well, and we'll kind of go through these concepts because some of them really do apply to retail and healthcare and different stuff as we get into it. And we kind of do cover the boxes and a lot of stuff. Fortinet makes so many products now, it's just dizzying. And it's kind of nice though, because we go through the deck and we talk about what the chips do and in which models you get the chips and how the rack mount, form factors work and a lot of this stuff. So the deck, this is why this is my go-to deck. It is 163 slides. It could be death by PowerPoint. So if you suffer from insomnia, trust me when I say this absolutely is the deck for you. But in all customer scenarios, and this is why I loaded up, this is the big hammer. This is how we close the $1 million MRC deals. That no matter what question comes up, trust me, there's a slide in this deck. And if you want not just the PDF, you want the actual PowerPoint, I can send that to you as well. And then you can go make your own decks and so on and so forth, right? So a lot of stuff that we cover in here. Let me skip more to the back. We'll show you the company news and we'll take some questions, but we do go through each one of the SD-WAN solutions in depth. We talk about wireless. We also, because not everybody has time to watch a video or do a live demo, we show screenshots from a lot of the portals. Here's what Bella looks like, for example, right? There's my house actually in Idaho, where I actually now have 2 fibers, 2 satellite connections, and LTE. I am never going down because I also have 55 IoT devices on Wi-Fi, so pretty crazy. All right, Ellen, if you're on, I think we're going to go through the company slides here.
I am here, Mike. Thank you very much. Well, let's open up for Q&A. We've got a question mark slide there at some point.
Yep.
Let's do that first. Okay, so bear with me here. What I'm going to do is technically give you the ability to unmute your line. So again, best thing to do is if you look at your name, to the left of your name is going to be a microphone. If you want to ask a question and that microphone is red, click on it and turn it from red to green. I see someone named Lori. Did you, you're one step ahead of me or somebody. Oh, maybe not. Lori, do you have a question?
No, yeah, I'm here. Yeah, just really quickly. When I started to get confused, to be honest, Mike, when you were talking about encryption and how because so many packets are encrypted that it's propagated the need for the secure access service edge. Now, is that something that's covered in the security bootcamp or SD-WAN bootcamp?
It is in the security bootcamp, and that's the biggest reason why there's all this hype that you guys, and it's only going to increase. SASE is the new SD-WAN in a lot of ways, right? Because it's all you're going to hear about for the next couple of years. The reason for that is that all traffic's encrypted, and up until now, all the firewall vendors have basically ignored the topic because they didn't want to talk about it. 10 years ago, maybe the bank was encrypted on the internet and a few sites. Now all traffic is, and there's 30 different ciphers as well that they're being encrypted with. And to get in the middle of those encrypted conversations, right? Because the whole point of encryption is, nobody is in the middle. I'm talking to my bank, I'm talking to whoever, but now everybody does it. And a year ago, Google changed their browser so that even if there's a website capable of serving up encrypted and unencrypted content, even if it's the same content, the browser will pull it by default encrypted. So the question becomes, how is your firewall doing anything if it can't see it? And getting in the middle of an encrypted conversation is where the fun begins. The more you go down that trail, the more you realize you're in fantasy land. So it makes it very easy with SASE and these technologies to get in the middle of it, because you really have to create what's called a cookie cutter. It's called a certificate authority certificate. If you guys are familiar with GoDaddy and VeriSign, these are the companies that make the certificates that get put into the web servers that are doing the encryption that you're going and surfing and visiting. And so you basically have to give the firewall this kind of, almost godlike capability to create certificates on the fly as if it were a certificate authority, right? And because now it has the ability to do it, it'll hand your users a certificate and they'll use it to encrypt it. Now, the thing that's tricky too is you have to get them to trust that. We call importing the certificate across thousands of devices perhaps in your environment, everybody's phone, everybody's laptop, everybody's, desktop. That's not easy either. And so it's kind of a long subject, but there's a lot involved. You got to be an SSL ninja. But if you achieve it, right, then your firewall's handing out certificates that your users will trust. They will use it because they trust it. They will encrypt it. The firewall will get it, decrypt it, do all its filtering, which, is why you bought it. All that stuff on the data sheet otherwise is a lie. It can't do any of it because it doesn't see anything. And so if you do that, it'll decrypt it, filter it, re-encrypt it. That requires some really heavy hardware to do that at wire speed. And that's why Fortinet, made their own chips. That's why they've raised prices 3 times in the last 12 months. So if you've seen us raise prices on those, it's not us, it's Fortinet. But that's why, because, also you got global supply chain, Taiwan, all these different issues factor in. It's hard to get those chips and hard to get them in quantity. I've actually been to foundries when I worked for Broadcom in Taiwan, and you'll be amazed that some of these chip runs, less than 10% of the chips survive, are tested as good at the end of the run. Pretty fascinating process. So some of those are very low yield as far as chips that work. And so that makes it very expensive. SASE dumbs that down because whether you realize it or not, as you install the software, it puts that master certificate, cookie cutter, if you will, in there. You trust it automatically. It gets imported into your endpoint device as you install SASE software. And then it can send that up to a cloud engine, which has infinite resources to crunch it, filter that, re-encrypt it, and send it on to its destination. So that's why you're seeing all these companies jump on board. It's not all this other stuff. It makes firewalls easier and internet web browsing safer and yada, yada, yada. A lot of the cool features haven't come out, and that's why Gartner made a shift in the last few weeks where you're seeing SSE, Secure Service Edge, and you're hearing less SASE, which is Secure Access Service Edge, because all the features haven't rolled out yet. So you'll see a lot of SSE. In case you're curious, don't get confused. But great question. And then as you have IoT stuff, it'll have to be partitioned off by your local box. Used to be your firewall, used to be your SD-WAN, and receive special handling. So that's why hardware will always be part of the picture.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. I think you answered that question, hopefully. Angelo has some questions he wrote in. And I don't know what to say, Angelo, because Mike's sound was perfect for me. I'm in California. He's in Idaho. We're not on the same network technically today. Angelo commented that you sounded like you were talking underwater a few times. And but you also said you have 2 fiber connections, an LTE and your satellite, connected to SD-WAN. And are you able to show us how your connections were performing throughout the session to help determine if that was their service or our service causing the audio issues? I know Chuck Long has done this with the proof of concept lab. I don't know if you can do that from where you are, Mike.
Yeah, actually, I'll pull it up. We'll take the next question while I do that, because it'll take me a second to log in. But yeah, we can actually show that. And with E&I, we can go really in depth, but honestly, just the cursory view of the cloud will show that. It's not going to correct, of course, your end, and odds are not to blame you, but it's definitely on your end. Because this box, we literally can pull connections on it and introduce massive packet loss, and it all works. So never had an issue there. Only time
you're working on.
By the way, in my home, just to kind of show you, is if I actually one time I left my Wi-Fi on in addition to my network card, and some of the packets were going over Wi-Fi, and then I was getting voice issues that were on my end. So sometimes you shoot yourself in the foot, even if you've got all the network experience in the world. And I just checked, and my Wi-Fi is not on, thank God. So that is not the reason you would hear that today. It's more likely that it's on your end. But I'll show you what the connections look like, and I'll bring that interface up. Coming up here in a minute. I'll share it.
Okay, so he also had a question. Andrew, you had a question about if AireSpring is going to sell Verizon's unlimited 5G. I don't have the answer for that, Mike. Have you heard anything about that?
No, 5G is really
not heard anything. Yeah,
it's high speed at short distances, long distances. We're going to be using 4G for many years to come, is the honest truth. So let me show you.
Yeah, Angela mentions he has seen their services being resold with some CLACs with unlimited data. I don't think I have anyone from the products team, the access team on here, Angelo, or we can check on that.
Let me show this real quick. Do you see the screen, Ellen, where it says?
I do.
Okay. So and my Starlink I took down because I still have it on my RV right now. My other fiber, I'm testing a firewall that somebody sent me. So at this very moment, I have my CenturyLink, my AT&T wireless, my Viasat communications on there. When you move to the QE tab in this thing, and it's very easy to see, You can see that CenturyLink's not having any issues. Viasat, it's always going to kind of give a red because it's a geosynchronous, so it's 16,000 miles up in the air, and the latency on that thing's about, in Idaho, about 300 to 400 milliseconds. Now, I'll tell you this, when I fail over to Viasat, there is the delay, which is why it's giving it red, right? It says latency and jitter, but there's no packet loss, and so ultimately the voice there is very, very clear. It's just when you talk as fast as I do, or you're having an interactive conversation, you'll notice the latency. Humans are incredibly perceptive at that. The AT&T wireless, I cheated on this one, to be honest. I put a USB dongle in there because if you do that on Velo, it auto configures itself and you don't even have to do anything to configure it. But it's not how we sell it. We sell it with the BEC and Cradlepoint boxes. Now really the BECs, not so much the Cradlepoints anymore, because when you get that 328 feet of Ethernet, you can put it up on a different floor, on a window or whatever, facing the tower. And I can always tell you nationwide where the AT&T towers are. I can make that inquiry, find out that it's, compass-wise this many degrees and in what direction. And that's pretty useful because sometimes, particularly back east, eastern US, there's a lot of trees and you kind of need to get up to the second and third floor to get out of that tree cover in order to get a much better signal. But it doesn't look like I'm having any issues with CenturyLink today. And a lot of people love this interface too because it replaces a lot of their network monitoring. As you can see here, a lot of my bandwidth goes over CenturyLink, not so much the LTE or the satellite, although those will get used a little bit now and then. Mostly it's going to prefer the fiber until I run out of bandwidth, and then I'll start to overflow these and figure out what applications can actually work. And when I go in here, I can see all my applications and what's using bandwidth, etc. So real-time streaming protocol and browser VPN, a lot of the stuff that we're doing right now to host this conference call. And then with ENI, you can drill down even farther. Like I could actually get into this conference call and look at GoToWebinar and pull analytics on that, which I don't have time to do right now. But if you want a full demo on Edge Network Intelligence, it's pretty awesome. We can show that to you at another time.